We're starting Be'ez Hashem Siman Nun Gimel in Vayoel Moshe, and we're still trying to find a source for the Rambam who says that Eliyahu is a machlokes if he'll come before B'yis HaMashiach or after B'yis HaMashiach. So, V'oid Ayin B'ran Nedarim Daf Samech Hey. U'Beis Yosef Yordeh Siman Reish Chav Ches. That this is again a hoisaf on what he said in the last Siman. He tried to bring a raya in the last Siman from Ben Koziva that since there was a Havamina, there was a possibility that Ben Koziva was Mashiach. So therefore, the Rambam could have proved from that Eliyahu doesn't have to come before Mashiach. So he's going to show now that we don't look at things that way. We look at the end of the story, not the beginning of the story.
What do you mean?
Meaning, like the end of the story, he wasn't Mashiach, right?
Yeah.
So, Adrabah, don't bring a raya from the Havamina, bring a raya from the Maskana. Even though great people thought that he was Mashiach, and since in the end terrible things happened, so that proves that they were wrong. So you can bring a raya from the end of the story. The Beis Yosef in Yordeh Herich Yoser, Bedin Hamuder Hanoah Mechaveroi. Now there's a Gemara in the Darim Daf Samachay. If someone makes a neder Hanoah Mechaveroi, or neder that's al das Chaveroi, a neder that has to do with somebody else, like let's say Moshe Rabbeinu made a neder not to leave Yisro's house until Yisro gives him permission. Or the same thing that Tzidkiyahu made a neder not to tell people that he saw Nebuchadnezzar eating the live rabbit. So a neder that's like a promise to somebody else, it involves another person. That you can't be matir neder unless that person is here and he agrees to it.
Right, because a neder is external barricade or external obligation. Shevuos is internal.
Right, but the point is that not a neder or a shvuah. Even shvuos, the din is the same here. The point is that since that guy stands to lose, you made the promise to him. So it's kind of a sneaky thing to do. You go and promise him, I'm never going to tell the secret. And then you go out and you matir neder and you tell the secret. No, you have to be matir neder in front of him. Okay? So the question of the Ran raises over there in the Darim is, Im mutter b'di'evid. What happens b'di'evid? Let's say they were matir neder. The guy went and was matir neder, without the guy's permission. So does it work or not? That's the question. So v'yesh rishonim, the Ran says there are some rishonim shehebi urayim mitzidkiya melech, that they brought a raya from the story of Tzidkiya. Tzidkiya was matir his neder, and he told people that Nebuchadnezzar ate the rabbit. Shahayat tzadik gomer. Tzidkiya was a complete tzadik. Umei Sanhedrin shahayu az shehitiru loy nidroi shaloi b'vnei Nebuchadnezzar. The Sanhedrin at that time permitted his neder, even though Nebuchadnezzar wasn't there and he didn't give permission. Now, why were they allowed to do it l'chachila? Obviously, it's also to be matir l'chachila, but in this case, it was extenuating circumstances. So he was very upset over it. He really had to tell. For some reason, like he was angry at Nebuchadnezzar, he had to tell people. So hadin the mutter. The din is that b'di'ev that's mutter. Sheyev shaloimer shaloi avdu kedin. You can't say the Sanhedrin did something wrong, and it actually was chal in the end. You see that he was allowed to tell. Umasha kosav tzaveh chalav. This the pasuk says bad about him. It says that he was wrong. Nisham kol kach, and Hashem ended up punishing him for it. Right? And Nebuchadnezzar came and he killed his kids in front of him. And he put him in jail. He took him into galus and chains. Blinded him. Right? So that was only because of the chil Hashem shaboy. That wasn't in the hilchos nedarim dikadin. That was
why did Nebuchadnezzar want anybody to know he ate a live rabbit?
Because it's like taiva, he couldn't even wait to kill the rabbit, he had to eat it alive. Okay, so the reason why he was punished was only because of the chil Hashem, not because of a violation of the neder. The Rav and another Rishonim argue, and they hold that even b'di'evid it's not mutter, and they say, I from Tzidkiyahu Melech, what is in the raya? The kosvu no, fakir puk chazi ma also boy uv Sanhedrin. Look what happened to him in the end. And then look what happened to the Sanhedrin. Shenenshu kol kach. They were punished for it. The Tzidkiyahu had his eyes poked out and his kids slaughtered, and Sanhedrin, I don't know what happened to them.
Tzidkiyahu's there was he keep his neder to Nebuchadnezzar?
So that's what the Rabbi is saying. The Rabbi is saying that's what he was punished for, not for chil Hashem. He was punished for not keeping his neder, and even though he was matir the neder, but the heter wasn't chal because he did it without permission from the
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah. So you see from this. The main point we want to show from this is that the end of the story is what counts, not the beginning of the story.
Yeah, how did Tzidkiyahu end up seeing Nebuchadnezzar eating live rabbit?
I don't know. That's a good question. So, Hilkach, Ein lo havi shum raya mishlam, you can't bring a raya from it. But Harbe, So we see from this the ladas arrived v'siyasai af b'tzidkiyahu v'sanhedrin she'asu halacha l'maisa. Even the Tzidkiyahu and Sanhedrin who went through with it, it's not like a Havamina and Ben Kuziva. They actually went through and they were matched to the neder and they told out the secret. Shebavada l'meidi mehem. You're really supposed to learn from it. The Gemara in Bava Basra Daf Kuflamed, right? It says that you don't learn from halacha and you don't learn from a maisa, only halacha l'maisa. But here it is halacha l'maisa. They said we're matched to the neder. Go tell everybody about the rabbit. Publish it in all the papers.
Why? Why did he publish the rabbit? Why?
He wanted to be Mvayishem. He was angry at him. So v'ha'oinish efshel misli b'chil Hashem. So even though they did a ma'aser la'alacha, and you could say the teretz that the other Rishonim say, you could say that the oinish was only because of chil Hashem. K'mashichas v'eiz Rishonim. Aval heim sabri, the Rabbi and his shita hold the kiven shehigia aleim oinish kol kach. Since such a tremendous punishment happened, avur zeh al korcha shahei toris gadol. You see that the Sanhedrin made a mistake in their psak.
What
of being matrimonial.
No answer.
Yeah. So we can't learn out from the story, even though there was a psak. But since it turned out to be wrong, you can't learn from it. V'im kain kal v'choyim ben koziva. All the more so in Ben Koziva sheba b'shvil zeh oinish mar, that there was a tremendous bitter punishment kol kach loy for him u'lechol kal Yisrael, the whole Jewish people shenigda az karen Yisrael, that the pride of the Jewish people was knocked down. Kamashakasa b'Yushalmi. That's why the city of Beitar was destroyed, and that was really the final churban. You can't learn from the psak halacha, even if there was a psak halacha that he was Mashiach. But in the end, if this story happened, we don't look at the Havamina, we look at the Maskana.
Right, so we see at the end of Tzidkiyahu that at the end, when the Mukhtar took revenge on Tzidkiyahu for revealing the nether, so we see in the end of the Hedron rule for Paskening that we might nether. So here also we see that whoever Paskin that he was Mashiach was wrong. That's what he's trying to show. So befrat shaloi haya kamoy b'tzidkiyahu she'asu halacha l'maisa. Here it's even worse than there, because there at least they tried to paskin halacha l'maisa, and then a punishment came. But over here, ki loy haya ella havamina bi'alma. It was only just there was no psak for the Sanhedrin
that he was Mashiach, right?
Or not even a small basin says so. There was not one basin we find it.
They just had a possibility in their mind.
We decide I'll be halacha. This is Mashiach.
The story of Ben Kuziva is no better than the Gemara in Bava Basra that says you don't learn from a limud and not from a maisa. You don't learn from them. The Rambam did bring a raya from Ben Kuziva's Havamina for the purposes of miracles. So that we explained already in Siman Nun Beis. That at least it wasn't a definite thing that he has to do miracles. It could be that he won't, it could be that he will. So for that, the Rambam brought a raya. We see that Chacham had a suffix at the beginning. And just to make things stronger, the Rambam brought down the medrash, even though medrash is not halacha, but he brought it down just to show strongly that there was such a havamina. Even though you can't derive from here a complete lesson. You at least see that it's a suffix whether he could have been Mashiach. We don't know for sure whether Mashiach will have to do nisim. And according to this, we can explain what the Rabbi means. So take a look again. Here you have it, page 1. And this is really, by the way, this is not from today's sources. I'm using the sources from a different shiur from before. It's in sources 17. If you're looking at the computer, sources 17 file, page 1 of the sources. Hilchos Malachim Perek Yudal Halacha Gimel. The Rambam says that Al Yal Al Daitcha Shamelach HaMashiach Tzarech La'asos Oisos U'Moifsim. Don't think the Mashiach has to do miracles. It doesn't come out that way. It's not true. Shahari Rabbi Akiva Chacham Gadol Mechach Me Mishnahaya V'hu Haya Noisei Kelev Shaben Koziva Melech. That Rabbi Akiva was the servant, the follower of Ben Koziva. V'hu Haya Omer Alav Shu HaMelech HaMashiach. V'dimahu V'chochach Medor Shu HaMelech HaMashiach. He and all the other Chachamim thought that he was Melech HaMashiach Ad Shenerag Ba'avonis, until he was killed through the sins. Once he was killed, they found out that he wasn't Mashiach. So, the Chacham didn't ask him to do any miracles. But now we're getting to the Rabbi. Take a look. The Rabbi on the side here, Al Yala Al Daitcha, Omer Avram, Va'aloi ben Koziva Haya Omer, Anahu Malka Mashiach. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, Tzadik Gimel, that Ben Koziva said, I am the Mashiach. The Chacham sent to check him out, if he could paskin based on the smell or not. Since he couldn't do it, Katluhu, they killed him. So the Rabbi is trying to say that it's not true. Mashiach does have to do a miracle. He has to do Moerech V'dayin. So Rabbi says like this: V'nir shezeh kavanas Rabbi b'asagasay al Rambam ma'shehevi Rabbi ben Koziva. The kivin de katluhu Rabbanan. Since in the end they killed him, after they saw that he couldn't paskin based on smell, it comes out that what they thought originally that he was Mashiach is not true. Right? You can't bring a raya from a Havamina. So the Rabbi is willing to admit that there was a Havamina that he was Mashiach.
There was a big mishal on the answer. Why are you going to ignore that? It was all big
so the Rabbi, this is the same Rabbi, by the way, who says in the Ran brings it down in the Dharam, who says you bring a Rabbi from the end of the story, not from the beginning.
Of course, many people try to leave out the full picture.
So this is what he's saying. He's saying the Rabbi, L'shitasa, basically is saying the end of the story is what counts. So in the end, they killed him. Yeah. So basically, he's saying that in other words, if not for this, not for Vayoel Moshe, we would learn the Rabbi more like the Rabbi is saying this is the miracle. Moerech V'dayin is the miracle. Rambam says he doesn't have to do a miracle. Oh, I'm proving that he does have to do one. But the Rebbe is saying no. He's saying Moerech V'dayin is not a miracle. So the Rambam did have a raya from the Havamina. The Rebbe is saying don't bring rayas from Havaminas, because in the end they killed him. So
at the end there was a disaster from this.
Right, now he's going to say soon that it doesn't mean he killed him. They killed him mamish. You're going to see. Upligi Rambam ve'Ravid b'svara zu im lahavi misham raya al kaponim laso sofik. That the Rambam and the Rabbi are arguing in this point whether you can bring a raya from a Havamina to make something into at least a suffix. It's the same idea as the machlokes that the Ran and the Dharam brings down about bringing a raya from tzidkiyahu. Hagam she'ein doime. So this is the same story of machlokes that we had about tzidkiyahu. Whether you bring a raya from the Havamina or from the maskana. Hagam she'ein doime legamri l'hasam. Even though it's not completely the same as that case, because there it's vaday psak halacha and here it's only a suffix. Elahu ke'ein, that's the same idea. Okay. Now, the Kesef Mishnah v'Alecha Mishnah Kosvu. Now we're going to get to the way the other Rishonim learned, the other Mefarshim learned this Machlokes Rambam and Rabbi. He's learning it the way he learned it just now. Kesef Mishnah, Alecha Mishnah have other pshatim. Take a look. Kesef Mishnah v'Alecha Mishnah Kosvu v'Asagis Rabbi. Shemasig alma shekosv Rambam shenerag umash v'shenerag al yidei ha'umois. That the Rabbi's main problem is that the Rambam says nerag, and nerag sounds like the goyim killed Ben Koziva. So on that, the Rabbi comes and says, no, it wasn't the Goyim, it was the Yidden, it was the Chachamim. The Gemara says the Gemara says the Rabban killed him. Because B'shezeh pluk the Bein Gemara v'Medrash. And the Kesef Mishnah and the Alecha Mishnah basically say that there's a machlokes between the Gemara and the Medrash here, on this point of the story. The Medrash Eicha b'Pasuk Bila Hashem, Omer the Nerag al Yidei Umos. The Medrash says that he was killed by the Goyim. The Rambam Hichriya Kedash the Medrash. The Rambam paskin like that Medrash, but the Rabbi paskin like the Babli. Okay. Now the question is, what is the machlokes Talian? So on that, there's a difference between the Kesef Mishnah and the Alecha Mishnah. The Kesef Mishnah is going to say it's a machlokes whether there's going to be nisim in the time of Mashiach, and the Alecha Mishnah is going to say it's a machlokes if Moerech V'dayin is a criteria for Mashiach. Take a look. Kesef Mishnah Toilah Plukta. He says the machlokes is the medrash against the Babli. Im halach k'Shmuel. It's a question if the halach is like Shmuel. The Omer ein bein ha'olam hazeh limois ha'mashiach ela shibud malchias. That Shmuel says there's no difference between this world and Mashiach's times, except for the fact that in Mashiach's times the Jews will be free from exile. They won't be under the nations. And now they're under the nations. That's the only difference. But other than that, all of the natural things are the same. And by the way, this is a raya against them, because the Tzionim say that even during Golus, we could be free. Even before Mashiach comes, we could be free from Shiur Malchus. So Shmuel is saying, no, that's for sure the difference. At least that. The other Amoraim hold even more. But at least that will change when Mashiach comes, that will be under our own sovereignty, not under the nations. Right? So this is a klar raya. This Maamar of Shmuel is a klar plak against the Tzionim. But anyway, the Rambam Poisek Shmuel, the Rambam in Perek Yud Beis passes like Shmuel. We're going to see it inside in a minute, Mitzvah Hashem. But the Kesef Mishnah says that's the machlokes between the Rambam and the Ravid, and that's the machlokes between the Bavli and the Medrash, Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi and the Medrash are together, and they both hold that Mashiach won't have to do Nisim. And he's saying basically, why did the Rambam take the Medrash over the Bavli? The Bavli is the Bavli. The answer is because he held like Shmuel, and Shmuel is Ein Bein, and Shmuel's in the Bavli. And since we hold Ein Bein, we hold that there won't be any miracles in Moshe Mashiach. He had to agree with the Yerushalmi that Ben Kuziv.
Moshe Mashiach is not the future Gula anyhow. The Maharal says.
Okay, so Alechem Mishnah Toila HaPlukta Im Sarach Liyos Moich V'Dayin. The Alechem Mishnah says no. The machlokes the Yerushalmi and the Bavli is whether Mashiach has to smell and paskin. That the Bavli holds he does, and the Yerushalmi holds he doesn't, and the Rambam took like the Yerushalmi. Okay, that it's not so understandable why they should be tali zebazeh, because I think what he means here is if Mashiach has to do moifsim, we're not talking about kriyas yamsuf. We're talking about just what's it? The Rambam saying Mashiach won't have to do moifsim. He's going like, according to the Kesef Mishnah, he's going like ein bein, right? And the Bavli who holds that he does have to do moifsim is going yesh bein. But the Bavli's moifis that Mashiach has to do is moich v'dayin. Moich v'dayin is not really a moifis. That's why he doesn't think this is tali habaha. And he says, but also gam beikra plukta masha kasav Kesef Mishnah the Rambam poisek Shmuel. This idea that the Kesef Mishnah says the Rambam passed like Shmuel, which the source for that is Perek Yud Beis Malachim. It's on one of the previous sheets, one of the previous sources. Last week's source 21, page 3. Rambam Perek Yud Beis Malachim. It says basically, Amru Chachamim Ein Bein Ha'olam Hazeh L'Mois HaMashiach El Shivu Malchus Bilvad.
Why is it Amru Chachamim? He said Amru Shmuel.
Okay, but the Rambam doesn't usually mention names. That's there for the Rambam.
There's only one Chacham, to be honest with you. The other man, the Zen didn't hold like this.
Right. So he says, Amru Chacham Ein Bein. So this Rambam really is, even though it's in Halacha base, it goes back on Halacha Aleph. Look at Halacha Aleph. Al Yala Al Leiv Shabi Moisa Mashiach Yibatel Davar Mi Minhagu Shel Olam. Don't think that in the days of Mashiach some nature is going to change. The world's going to continue with its nature. This that Yishai says the wolf will lie down with the lamb, the namer im gedi, and the leopard with the goat, yerbats, mashal v'chida. He says that's just a mashal. It doesn't mean literally. That the Jews will live securely in their land. They won't be killed by the Rishaim of the Goyim. Hamashulim kazev v'namer. That the Goyim are compared to a wolf and a leopard. Okay, so the Rambam says in connection with this, that's when halacha base he says so the Rambam passing like Shmuel. That's the Kesef Mishnah's contention here. So if you take a look, what he says here, he says, Kvar Herich Belechem Mishnah Hilchas Tshuva Per Ches Halacha Yud B'Rayas Brurus. The Lechem Mishnah in Hilchas Tshuva says the Al Kochach HaRambam Zal Lo Yisvir Like Shmuel. The Rambam doesn't pass him like Shmuel. U'Mashehevi Divei Shmuel Hu Rak Lahavi Raya Midvarav L'Fi Ha'inyan. He's just bringing Shmuel as a raya for something else, but not that he actually paskins like Shmuel. I want to go in to explain this Lechem Mishnah. Maybe we'll stop after this. But I want to explain this Lechem Mishnah in Hilchas Tshuva because it's really interesting. Take a look at the Hilchas Tshuva Perek Ches. It's on page 1 in the sheets from this week. Perek Ches Halacha Zayin. Kvar hoidiyunu hachachamim harishonim shetoivas ha'olam haba ein koach ba'olam la'asiga al burya. That the olam haba you can't understand it now. Ve'ein yodea gadla v'yafya v'atzma el HaKadosh Baruch Hu levadai. Nobody can know its greatness and its beauty and its essence except HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And he says, all the things that the Nevi'im say, they're all physical stuff, right? The Nevi'im say physical things about the world. That's going to happen in Moisei Mashiach. When the Yidden have their own sovereignty. But the future world, there's no way to imagine it. The Nevi'im don't even describe it. Because if they would describe it, it would have to lessen its greatness. No eye could see what you, Hashem, prepared for those who wait for you. Only Hashem knows it. No Navi even saw it. So, and he says, that's what Hashem made for those who wait for Him. Page 2. So you see, Clark, here the Rambam saying that the Nevi'im who speak about miracles are speaking about what? Speaking about Imois HaMashiach, but not about Olam Haba. But you see, the miracles are going to happen in Imois HaMashiach, and the Gemara explicitly makes that a machlokes against Shmuel, who says that Ein bein ha'olam hazeh Imois HaMashiach el shiva malchus bilvad. So how could the Rambam contradict himself here? In Hilchos Tshuva, he says that the halacha is not like Shmuel. The halacha is that they're going to be nisim Imois HaMashiach. And it's both in Yad.
They're both in Yad, but in Hilchos otherwise.
Right. So the Lechem Mishnah asked this kasha here. So take a look at the bottom. Lechem Mishnah says, Yesh kan tema. There's a big kasha here. The Perek Chelek, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, or Rabbi Yochanan. This member that the Rambam brings here is in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that Kol Hanavim Kulam Lo Nisnabu El Nimois HaMashiach. Abo Olam Haba Ein Lo Yirasa L'Kim L'Zulasecha. Upliga de Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel Ein Bein Olam Hazeh Nimois HaMashiach. It's against Shmuel. So how could the Rambam pass them like both? And he says, Vimkain, a little bit later down, Vimkain Eich Pasuk Rabbeinu Ketarti. Kan Pasuk Mandi Amar Kol Nevi'im. Here he passes like the Mandi Amar that the Nevi'im talk about Mashiach. Uvisoif Perek Tishi Kasav Ukvar Amru Chacham Marishonim Ein Bein Olam Hazeh Nimois HaMashiach. Right in Hilchos Tshuva. So you don't even have to go all the way to Hilchos Malachim. The steer is right here in Hilchos Tshuva, from Perek Ches to Perek Tes. So, and then he says V'oid Kasha the V'Shabbos Perek Bama Isha. That in Shabbos, in the chapter about the ornaments that women are allowed to wear on Shabbos, Daf Samach Gimel and Aleph, the Mishnah, Lo Yetzei Ho'ish, Loi B'Sayef, V'Loi B'Keshes. The Mishnah says a man is not allowed to go out with a sword or a bow on Shabbos. A sword in its hilt, around his belt.
That's carrying. Right,
because it's carrying. If he goes out, he's being Mechal Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer says no, that's considered like an ornament. Just like you could wear a tie on Shabbos, or you could wear a sword.
What a nice ornament to have a weapon.
What did you say?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe the Shonim will say that the idea of carrying ornaments on this.
Exactly, they do say that.
Oh, really?
So tachshitim heiloi, it's a tachshit. And by the way, Rabbi Moshe is matir hatzala people to carry the radios, because also the same idea. It's like a stoltz. It's like a thing that you're proud of. You're hatzala, so here also you're proud if you're a soldier.
So a hatzala guy's radio is not worn in a header, but it's actually clipped on the belt without holding the belt together.
Right. Well, there's no heter otherwise to carry a radio. What other heter is there?
I thought they clip it to the belt somehow.
No, you can't do that because the belt's not the same thing as the clip. The clip in the radio.
Gotcha.
The heter is only because it's a stoltz. So the point here is,
a guy, a radio is considered. It's considered a tachshit, really.
Yeah, that's what Moshe says. The Chachamim say back to Rabbi Lezer, no, it's an embarrassment.
Of course, weapons are a genai. Who
that B'Moisei Mashiach, we're going to take the swords and beat them into plowshares. The famous pasuk in Yeshaya.
Yeah, contrary to the Israeli government, who only wants more and more weapons rather than beating them down.
So
more weapons for them.
So and lo yisa goy al goy cherev lo yilmudu oid milchama. U'b'gemara amru sham.
Trying to want more and more war.
So the Gemara says there in Shabbos Daf Samach Gimel, it says that the Chum say to Rabbi Lezer, the Amar Tachshitim Hein Loi, Lama Hein B'Teilim Moisei Mashiach. According to you, if there's such a big pride, then why are they going to become Batel in Moisei Mashiach? So the Rabbi Lezer answers back that it's not pshat that it's an embarrassment, it's just that we won't need them then, but they're still a good thing. So I hold that it's considered a pride to carry. Chacham hold no, it's a ganai. The Gemara says that these two shittas, both Rebbe Lezer and the Rabbanan, are assuming that Shmuel is correct, that we will not need, they're assuming that Shmuel is not correct, and they're assuming that we won't need weapons in Yimois Mashiach. The like Shmuel, the Amar ein bein olam azeli Yimois Mashiach, v'chulu. V'hu command the Amar kol anavim lo nisnabu, and he's like the other man the Amar. V'yikad the Amar, and there's another version of the Brisa there that Rebbe Lezer is going like Shmuel. The Rebbe Lezer says, yeah, I hold it's a pride to have a weapon, because you know why? I hold, like Shmuel, I hold there's going to be weapons when Mashiach comes too. Aval Rabbanan the Amri B'Telim Al Karchin Asi the like Shmuel. The Rabbanan who say that it will be batal go not like Shmuel. V'im Kain Rabbeinu Shepasak B'Ilchus Tshuva B'Ilchus Shabbos Perak Gid Test. The Rambam Paskins in Hilchus Shabbos Kechachamim Eich Pasak Shmuel. How could he paskin like Shmuel in Hilchus Malachim? The Amr Ein Bein. So Zak the Lechem Mishnah. No, the Rambam really does paskin like the other Amoraim, not like Shmuel.
So why is he seemingly?
So why is he bringing Shmuel? So I'm not going to say, I don't have time right now, but you can read it inside. But he says that the Raya is like this: that the pasuk that guards Zev and Kevis, the pasuk that the wolf and the sheep will lie down together, is Beferish talking about Mashiach. There's no way out of it. The pasuk says Beferish Yatzach Chayter Migeza Yishai, that that there'll be a Ben David will come and Yishai Perak Yidalf. So since it says Beferish that in the times of Mashiach, the wolf and the lamb will lie down together, how is Shmuel, who says that there are going to be wars in the time of Mashiach, how is he going to deal with that pasuk? And there's no changes in nature. So how's the wolf and the lamb going to lie down together? So on that, the Rambam brings a raya that it must be a mashal. And once Shmuel says it's a mashal, then the Rabbanan also have to hold it. In other words, every other place in the Nevi'im where they talk about Nisim, Shmuel will just say, that's Olam Haba. That's not in Yimois Mashiach. But this one parak in Yeshaya Yud Aleph, where it says that the Zev and the Kevis, that parak has to be talking about Mashiach, because it says Beferish. So it was like, how does Shmuel learn it? So Elamai must learn it to mashal. So once he's saying it's a mashal, the Rabbanan will also say it's a mashal. That's all the Rambam meant. But the Rambam didn't mean to say we paskin like Shmuel. So we get back to this.
So that was talking about the Yimois Mashiach. Here we're talking about Olam Haba.
What's talking about Yimois Mashiach?
So the other by Hilchos Malachim it says about the Yimois Mashiach, and this is talking about Olam Haba.
No. He's saying like this. This is Yimois Mashiach. Yimois Mashiach, there's going to be Nisim.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be war.
Yeah.
And that the Rambam says Ein Bein, like Shmuel, he doesn't mean to say we paskin like Shmuel. He just means to say that if Shmuel says it, he must have a way to learn the pasuk about the wolf. So how is he going to learn the pasuk about the wolf? Answer is he learns that it's a mashal. So once he learns it's a mashal, we could also learn it's a mashal, but not that we actually paskin like Shmuel.
Right.
So it comes out that the Kesef Mishnah can't say what he's saying. He says now, right? Now that the Lechem Mishnah proved that Shmuel's not la'alach and not the Rambam Psak, you can't say that. Look what he says. Masha hebi divrei Shmuel hu rak lahavi ra'ay midbarav lefihu inyan. Umid Shmuel nishma l'Rabbanan yirin sham sheherich bebiyuroi. The Lechem Mishnah goes on at length. We just read it inside. V'siyem shaloi hebi Rambam divrei Shmuel el kedemus raya. He just brings down Shmuel's raya. Avaloi dispir like kabasei. Gam docha al yidei zeh divrei Kesef Mishnah sheb'soif Hilchos Malachim. And that's why he rejects this Kesef Mishnah that we just said in Malachim, that the Kesef Mishnah says the Rambam goes like Shmuel. So bottom line is, the Kesef Mishnah is shver because it's not totally, and also because the Rambam doesn't pass like Shmuel. And Mirz Hashem, next week we'll talk about the next part where he talks about the Lechem Mishnah. The Lechem Mishnah also has an answer to this Rambam and Rabbi. He's going to say that he doesn't hold of it. Okay, we're holding in the middle of Siman Nun Gimel by the Dibra Maskul Masha Himtzi on page Samach Zayin Amin Aleph in Vayoel Moshe Maamar Shalosh Shevuos. And we were talking about the Rambam Shita that there's a machlokes if Mashiach could come, if Eliyahu will come before Mashiach or after Mashiach. And the question was, there's a Gemara in Eruvin Daf Mem Gimel that says not like that. It says that it's clear that Eliyahu will come before Mashiach. So the question was, where did the Rambam get this other Shita from? And we went into a possibility that maybe the Rambam brings a raya from Ben Koziva. that Ben Koziva was a possible Mashiach, and the Rambam even says that all the Chachamim believed in him, not just Rabbi Akiva, until he was...
Rabbi Akiva ben Taras,
right, except for him.
Yeah.
So, how could he have been Mashiach if Eliyahu didn't come first? So, Elamai must be that they held that Eliyahu doesn't have to come first. But in Siman and Beis, the Rebbe kind of rejected that because he said that it's not mistaber that we could just bring a raya from a Havamina like that, because you see they rejected him in the end anyway. They rejected him because he couldn't smell in Paskin, and so so it could be there were other reasons why they rejected him besides that. So you can't necessarily prove anything from a Havamina. Besides the fact that it's not so posh that all the Chacham held that he was Mashiach, maybe only Rabbi Akiva held, and it's only a medrash, and it's a medrash against the Gemara. And that's what we're in the middle of discussing now. When you have a medrash against the Gemara, and here the Rambam followed the medrash, and the Yerushalmi that said that Rabbi Akiva believed in Ben Koziva, the question is that why did the Rambam do this? Why did the Rambam follow the medrash against the Bavli? The Bavli in Sadi Gimel on the base says that he was, that the Chacham killed him. So we had the Lechem Mishnah and the Kesef Mishnah. The Kesef Mishnah said that the machlokes between the Yerushalmi and the Bavli is whether Ein Bein Olam Hazel Limois Mashiach El Shiva Machlis Bilvad, whether that Mashiach is going to be a natural type of time or it's going to be a supernatural time. The Rambam held it's going to be a natural time, so that's why the Rambam paskin that Ben Koziva could have been Mashiach.
But in Hilchas Shua, the Rambam said otherwise.
So that was the problem that you raised at the Lechem Mishnah. In Hilchas Shuvah proves that the Rambam holds. Rambam says with Feish Bein,
like Rabbi Yochanan, not like Shmuel.
That Yesh Bein, that Olam Moisem Mashiach is going to be a supernatural time, and that he said it in Hilchas Malachim was just to prove something from Shmuel, but not because he passed like Shmuel.
Because either way, we most of the time don't pass like Shmuel. There's a machlokes with Shmuel and Rav, and also Rabbi Yochanan.
Now, in the Lechem Mishnah had a different way to explain the machlokes, the Yerushalmi and the medrash against the Bavli. He explained that it's a machlokes if Mashiach has to smell and paskin or not, and the Rambam paskin like the medrash that he doesn't have to smell.
But here's time when you paskin, he has
to. So that's what he's going to say now. Umasha himsi Lechem Mishnah pluta chadasha. This is the Lechem Mishnah creates the new machlokes here between the Yerushalmi and the Bavli. Im tzarich liyos marich v'dayin. If Mashiach has to smell and paskin, kvar hebeisi me'aridvaz. I already brought down the Ridvaz on the side of the Rambam, who says that that's not the machlokes. He says that everyone agrees Mashiach has to be marich v'dayin. And originally, the Chacham Taka thought that he was Mashiach, and then they changed their mind when they saw that he couldn't do it. V'hara'az, Rav Ram Zekuto, in Spain by the Inquisition time, he wrote the Sefer Ayuchsin, and there he wrote that Rabbi Akiva changed his mind after he couldn't be Marich V'dayin. So you see, Shabar Beinayim, it's clear in their eyes, She'ein Bozeh Plugta, that there's no machlokes between the Yerushalmi and the Bavli or the Medrash about this question. Everybody agrees that he has to be Marich V'dayin, and that's why Rabbi Akiva changed his mind. Rambam Atzmoi B'geres Tema. That's what you said. The Rambam himself says that he has to be Marich V'dayin. Hechlit l'davar bar she'amelech HaMashiach tzarich liyos Marich V'dayin. The Rambam says it. U'kfir nir lo haya lifnei Lechem Mishnah Yigeres Teman. It seems that the Lechem Mishnah didn't even see this Yigeres Teman, because that's why he says that the Rambam held that you don't have to be Marich V'dayin. Not all Sfarim were printed and distributed, so maybe he didn't have it. Gam ha'eich efshel lidchois divrei hashas machmas divrei medrash. It's dumb, even if there is a machlokes between the shas, between the Gemara and the medrash. But how could you just pick the medrash over the shas? Shas is always more authoritative. Like klalahu b'chol makom shedivrei hashas yoiser min midrashas.
And kol shekain Kabbalah.
And kol shekain, right? But kiven stimias hashas, since the simple language, the shas without any qualifying names or opinions, it just says explicitly that what hu b'maskanosam, at the end of the story, is the Rabbanan Savi shetzarich liyos marich v'dayin. The Rabbanan hold that Mashiach has to paskin with smell.
Now you're Rabbi Akiva, who individually held that he doesn't.
V'gam asu ma'aser rav, and they even went ahead and acted on that. Al yidei zeh shekatvu, because they killed him. They killed Ben Koziva. So ha'eich efshel lachlech aleim. How could you say that that's not halacha and paskin like the Medrash? Uveikra davar she'asu plugta bein Gemara ve'Medrash. The very idea that the Lechem Mishnah and the Kesef Mishnah made a machlokes here is kvar bir ha'Abarbanel b'sifrei mashmi Yeshua she'ein bozeh plugta. The Barbanel says no, there is no real machlokes here. They could both agree. Why? Demasha amru b'Gemara d'Rabbanan katlu. This that the Gemara says that the Rabbanan killed Ben Koziva, it's not literal. He says, "Eina kavana shekatlu biyadayim." Doesn't mean they actually killed him with their hands. El shadanu oisei lemisa. They decided, they had a bezdin, they sat down and they ruled that he was chayav misa. V'lachein nerag al yidei umas ha'olam, and that's why he was killed by the goyim. Ve'ein b'zeh shum stira. There's no contradiction between the Gemara and the Medrash. V'lam alani lastos pluk tebein tanoim b'makom she'ef shalash voisam. So why should we go and make a machlokes between the tanoim in Rabbi Kiva against the other chachamim if we could just make them fit together nicely? Uv'toira akdoisha. Parshas Vayeshev Eitzel Yosef Beis Asurim. He's trying to bring a raya now that you say when someone commands something to be done and it's done, it's keilu he did it himself. So he says Yosef, whatever Yosef commanded was done. It's considered like Yosef did it. It says Eitzel Yosef Beis Asurim Dichsiv Eis Kol Asher Heim Oisim Shalom. Whatever they did in that jailhouse, Hu Haya Oiseh. Yosef did it. The Targum says B'Meimrei Haba Misaved. In his word it was done. By his word, by Yosef's word, all the things were done. So, whatever is done based on his command is ki'ilu he did it. Since it was his koich that caused it to happen, even though he didn't actually do it. We find many places the same thing. That it could be, it's not a stira. When the Rabban killed him, it doesn't mean they actually killed him. It means they cursed him, or they just thought about it. They decided that he was chayav misa. That's enough to consider it like they killed him. It was their power that caused it. Okay. He says, I'm amazed that the Kesef Mishnah, Lechem Mishnah, quote the Medrash as saying that Ben Koziva was killed by the Romans. But if you look in the Medrash, you see it doesn't say that. It says he was killed by a snake. It says,
what happened exactly? How does snake kill? What happened exactly?
The snake bit him, and you're going to hear. Look, he's going to bring the whole thing down. Nerag Ben Koziva. Ben Koziva was killed. ICU Reisha. They brought his head Lagabe Adrianus to the king Adrianus, the emperor. So Omar Man Kotle Ladain. So Adrianus said, "Who killed this man?" Azal v'Aisei. They went and they brought the rest of his body. V'Ashkach Achna Kricha Al Tzavare. They found a snake curled around its his neck.
So
why did Hadrian ask who killed him?
What did you say?
Why did Hadrian ask who killed him? Why does he care?
Because he wanted to know if it was the Yidden.
He was a rebel, Ben Koziva, against the Roman emperor.
Right, but the Roman emperor was trying to kill him, but he wasn't angry at them for killing him, but he said, who was successful at killing this great Gibor? So, this person that was so strong.
So I guess the bow constrictor was stronger than him.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. He could pull up a tree when he was riding his horse, but he couldn't.
Yeah, so the bow constrictor.
So he wanted to see who was so strong that he killed him?
I guess so, yeah.
He was just interested.
Yeah.
I guess bow constrictor was that strong after all.
So he said, they found a snake around his neck. So Amar Adrianus said, Ilu loy Eloika katle, if Hashem wouldn't have killed him, Ladain, to this man, man hava yachile. Who could have killed him? Meaning that basically nobody could defeat Ben Koziva.
So he admired to Hashem, not the snake itself.
Right, he attributed it to Hashem. V'kara alav im loy kitzuram b'charam. Pasuk in Hazinu, the nations will say, how could one person run after 1,000? We see explicitly that it's not the nation, it's not the Romans that killed him. There was no way for a human being to kill him. He was too strong. It was only Hashem that killed him. This whole thing is brought in Yerushalmi too. That's Reb Shmuel ben Yitzchak Yaffa again, right? We had it before. Yeah. He says in his Pirush on the Yerushalmi that Shehanachash hu shliach meis Hashem Yisborach. The Nachash was a shliach from Hashem. V'im came bevadai she'ein bozeh plugto ustira. So now we know for sure there's no contradiction between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. The Kemoisha Amru b'medrash HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hargai, just like we say HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed him, but not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu physically took him and killed him, but it was a shliach of Hashem, right? Yan shehaya al yidei hanachash shliach min hashemayim. In the same exact way, the Rabbanan killed him. How? By saying that he's chayav misa. That when Hashem does is based on what the Chacham decides. The Chacham decides someone's chayav misa, Hashem carries it out. They killed him. Hashem killed him through the shliach, or the Chacham killed him through the shliach that was sent from Shemayim. Befrat she'Adriyanus lo yada ma she'asu Chachamim. Adriyanus, when he said that Hashem killed him, he didn't know about the Chachamim, so it's not a kasha why he didn't mention the Chachamim in the Bible, in the Yerushalmi and the Medrash. Adriyanus is a Roman. How does he know about the Chachamim? He just knew that the snake killed him, and it must be Hashem killed him. He just saw Shal Korchachu min Hashemayim. V'yoyser loy amroi loy amru mizeh b'Medrash. The Medrash doesn't say more about it. El sha'ashas gilu lanu. It's only the Talmud Bavli that explains to us the secret. Shahayizeh ma'aseh Chachamim b'Shemayim. It was the Chacham who decided it. U'meichet teisi lashes was that plukta b'divrei Chazal. So there's no necessity to make a machlokes here between the Yerushalmi and the Bavli. And therefore the Rambam and the Ravid is not really a problem. The Ravid's kasha on the Rambam from the Bavli is not a problem, because the Rambam knows about the Bavli, but what he's saying shims with it. He says, Gama Rambam zal loy kasav shenera galidei umois. The Rambam doesn't say explicitly he was killed by the nations. El kasav stam shenera. He just says he was killed. V'shapir kavanasei shenera galidei shliach anacha shliach d'Rabbanan u'shliach d'Rachmana. So it's the Rambam could mean he was killed by the snake, which is a shliach, a messenger from Hashem, and the messenger of the Rabbanan. Even the Rabbi, when he asks on the Rambam, he's not asking from the fact that he was killed by the Chachamim in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, because that's not a stira, like we just said. That wouldn't slug up the Rambam. That the Ravid's problem is, how did the Rambam bring a Raya B'chlal from this story when it turned out that they were wrong in the end? Kind of like what we said in the previous Siman in Nun Beis, that there's a machlokes, the Ran in the Nedarim. The Ran says that by a neder, it was in this Siman actually, Nun Gimel, the beginning, that if a neder was made for someone else's benefit, and their matir without him being there, is it good b'diavad or not? And they brought a raya from Tzidkiah who did this with the Chacham where matir is neder, but the end of the story, the Ravid says no. The end of the story was that there was a tremendous punishment for that. So you learn out from the end of the story. Don't learn from the beginning. Okay, that's the Ravid's problem with this Rambam too. Learn out from the end of Ben Koziva. Look at the toys. Look at the nezik. Look at the tremendous damage that took place because of Ben Koziva. The Rambam's proof from this that Mashiach doesn't have to do miracles is just that at least it was a suffix by them. At least they don't know for sure that Mashiach has to do miracles. We don't find anywhere in the Gemara the opposite. We don't find anywhere that he has to do it. But to bring a raya from the Havamim of Ben Koziva that Eliyahu doesn't have to come before Mashiach when it's a Beferish Gemara, not like that. That's hard to say. All right. So now we're going to get to a new answer to this question of why the Rambam says there's another shita. Shuvro isi. Now this is going to be a new pshat in why the Rambam says there's a shita that Eliyahu doesn't have to come first. But Kresi uplesi soif siman kuf yud. Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz on Shulchan Aruch, right?
Oh, you put it Shulchan Aruch, really?
Yeah, Kresi uplesi.
It's a separate sefer. You find the Shulchan Aruch itself.
It's not printed on the side of Shulchan Aruch.
Separate sefer?
Yeah.
I see.
So Shekasav Lataretz Divrei HaRambam. He I don't know how this comes into Siman Kuf Yud in Yeridea, but he's coming to answer up the Rambam.
What's to discuss in Yeridea?
It's going on Hilchas Safek, Hilchas Taruvis, and Sveikas, and Svek Sveika. So I don't know what that has to do with this, but he says Lataretz Divrei HaRambam Shesoiver Gamkein Shaseder Hu Sheyavu Eliyahu Kodim B'Yas HaMashiach. He says like this. The Rambam says there's two shittas, right? Eliyahu could come before or he could come after. Dr. Rabbi Yonasan no. L'olam the Rambam holds that Eliyahu has to come before, like the Gemara in Erevin. Kivin Shavu Gemara Amrukein. The Gemara says that. B'chidivrei Gemara b'chidi nemra. Is the Gemara said for nothing? Even if the Rambam doesn't paskin like that Gemara for reasons that we explained already, because he holds Safin Nazir's L'Hakil, but still the Gemara is saying something. It's saying a fact. So it has to be a fact, right? Aval Yadua Masha Kasbu Chazal Loi Zachu Be'ita Zachu Achishana. That it depends. In other words, that when the Gemara says that Eliyahu comes before Mashiach, it's only talking about one of the scenarios of Bias HaMashiach. That the Gemara in Sanhedrin says, Loi Zachu, if we're not Zoichet to Bias HaMashiach early, then he'll come Be'ita, he'll come in his time. And Zachu, if we're Zoichet for him to come early, if we do a lot of mitzvahs, then Achishena, then he'll come early. So, Uspile the Ramam Vadai, Seder Utnai Shal Bias HaMashiach Hu Shel Eliyahu Yav Levaster B'Yasai. That when Eliyahu comes, when Mashiach comes at the time he's supposed to come, then it's going to go with the whole Seder. It's going to go in order.
But seemingly the Rambam says that our own Das will decide, not Eliyahu. Seemingly the Rambam says that our Das will tell who Mashiach is.
What do you mean our Das will tell us?
Meaning we will recognize his signs.
Right, but this is the question. That the Rambam says his signs are that he'll make everybody do tshuva.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that one of the signs is Eliyahu. Not the Rambam. The Rambam holds that Eliyahu could come after.
Yeah.
Why? Why could it be? The Gemara says he'll come before.
Yeah.
So he says that the Rambam holds that if he comes on time, let's say the time that he's going to come is a certain year. If he comes in that year, Eliyahu will come first. But that's Rakhani Milim Nasa Be'ita. That's only if it happens on its time. Avalim Zachu Sheyimaher V'Yachish Geula. If the Jewish people are worthy of having an early redemption, then Medalig Alahar Mekapital voice. And Hashem skips over the mountains, the Lashon HaPasuk in Shir Shirim. He skips over the mountains and the hills. L'shanois HaSeder. He changes the order. V'ava Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the Jewish people causes the Seder to be changed.
But for sure, it's not for us to decide when it comes early.
Well, if he fulfills the criteria that the Rambam says, then he could be coming early. Yeah,
but we'll see Eliyahu first, I guess, as everyone's saying here. If he comes early,
if he comes early, then he could come early. He says, "Kischus Yisrael Meshana Hashura." The merit of the Jewish people changes the order. That's what the Rambam means that Mashiach could come before Eliyahu. Really, it's normal Eliyahu should come first. It's not for sure. Maybe Hashem will give his ruach to us and will serve him. Then he'll hurry up the redemption. Ben David without Eliyahu coming first. The Gemara in Eruvin says that it's allowed to drink wine on Shabbos, and we're not afraid that Mashiach is coming on Shabbos because Eliyahu has to come before. Maybe Eliyahu is not going to come before. Yeah? So he says, we're not afraid Mashiach coming early. It's something that's not going to happen, probably. It's something very unlikely. And therefore, the Nazir is not forbidden to drink wine because of something that might happen that's very unlikely. There's a whole long Rabbi Yonatan there. He explains the whole Gemara. Okay, but we could spend a lot of time working on this crazy place if we wanted to. But there's not the time now to go into it. But the problem with this whole pshat of Rabbi Yonatan is lahamis b'lashon Rambam zal kizvarav, is to make it fit into the Rambam. Because the Rambam says yesh min hachachamim that hold this, and yesh min hachachamim hold that. He doesn't say it's a question of whether Mashiach is going to come early or late. That's going to be the problem. The Rambam's mashmit a machlekes. The Pirush of the Kra, machlekes, what the pasuk means, the Hinei Anochi Sholech Lachem Eis Eliyahu Hanavi, Lifnei Bo Yoim Hashem Agalav V'Anoira. That Eliyahu is coming before the great and awesome day of Hashem. What's the great and awesome day of Hashem? It's Mashiach or it's Gog u'Magog? He says, Im Zekai Yoim Bias HaMashiach or Yoim Hashem Lechem is Gog u'Magog. U'Dibri HaKreisi U'Pleisi Ein L'Stoiver Sheyesh Plugta. Rabbi Yonatan is saying there's not a machlekes. He milsa dolei shchicha. It's just an unlikely possibility. Shinoi sidra dekra that goes against the order of the pasuk. Machmas achishana because Mashiach is coming early. Ad shaloi chashu chazal. It's so unlikely that chazal aren't even afraid of it. Ad shaloi chashu chazal was there. Ap b'yisur de'rais shal nazirus. They weren't afraid of this thing about Mashiach coming early. Afilu b'zmaneim, even in their time. When Mikol Shekhem Adoris to Achroinim, Mikol Shekhem now we shouldn't be afraid. We're not even on the madrega of chazal, so for sure we shouldn't be afraid of Mashiach coming early. Okay? Ve'achasam sofer b'likutei shalos tshuva siman tzadik ches heavy as far as the placey was the kilsei. Chasam sofer praises the crazy places pshat. Avaloi bir mashikasav lahami zeh b'lashon Rambam. It's a nice pshat on its own, but he doesn't explain how it fits into the Rambam.